Okay, hello, welcome to the stream. Before we get started, I want to make sure everything's working properly. So if you can hear me, please text something in the chat because last time I had a problem. Oh, hi! And we're watching your game today, by the way. I'm happy to see you. How are you doing, guys? It's been a long time, maybe around a month since the last stream. So please let me know if the sound is good, if the picture is good, and everything's working. A bit small? You mean my voice is not too loud, or what do you mean? Let me fix it for the short because in OBS it looks a bit different, and I think I want to make it look as good as possible. But what do you mean by yeah? Like I'm speaking pretty loudly. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I speak pretty loud. Maybe there is something else I can do with the microphone. Or no, that's not getting better. Okay, maybe this is a little bit better. Let me know. Because it looks like usual. I'm not sure. But thanks for telling me. Okay. Maybe I could increase it like this. Is it better? Like, is the sound getting better at all? Please let me know. I'm trying to fix everything before we get started, and maybe someone else could also join. Let's see, I think the board looks good. That's pretty good. Okay. Anyway, guys, welcome to everyone who joined. I hope I fixed my sound, and I really want to begin. So I'm hoping someone will tell me if the sound is good enough, because it does sound like it is. It is working. Okay. So let's wait longer. Not sure if everything's perfect. All right. So while we're waiting for others to join. Okay, perfect. Tell me how you've been doing, guys. It's been a month since our last stream, and I'm curious if something changed in your chess career, if we can call it a career. Have you increased your rating? Have you played some good games, or how did it go for you? Let me know. I managed to do something exciting for you, which will be released next month. I'll tell you more about it a bit later. Now tell me about yourself, guys. I hope it's not too delayed, by the way. Let's make it a bit smaller again. Just like that. Let me know, guys, if you think the board is too small. I'm just trying to make it small so that you can see it better on YouTube Shorts. But if you want me to have it bigger, also let me know in the chat, okay? Yeah, rapid chess is actually very good for your development, guys. It's better than Blitz. Definitely. A lot of people, especially around 1800 points, play Blitz all the time instead of playing rapid games. And Blitz just shows how good your chess level already is instead of improving your chess level. So if your tactical skills are good, if your openings are good, you're gonna do well in Blitz practically. But if you struggle in those areas, you're gonna struggle in Blitz as well. And why not just play rapid so that you have more time to think and explore and improve and then test your intuition in Blitz? So I think that could be good. But all right. I think I opened one of the puzzles that will be the last puzzles actually. We're gonna start with something easier today, guys. If you're here for a while, if you've been here for a while, we had a couple of gold streams in August where we worked on pattern recognition. We covered knight, pawn, and rook in terms of recognizing how to checkmate with those pieces in different situations. So if you know a typical pattern of how a piece can checkmate, you can find this idea in different situations. And honestly, even today, I played a game and that was just beautiful because it was literally from the puzzle that we solved together in August, like the night smothered mate. That was extremely beautiful. Maybe at the end of the stream, I'll show it to you as well because that was really just the pattern that we discussed, and you can recognize it if you see it. So, most of all, I would say chess is about pattern recognition. So, yes, you want to know that. 30 minutes is good. I think if you have a chance, any chance to play over the board in real chess, that would be even better because online chess is, not that good in terms of remembering how pieces move, in terms of seeing the whole board. Because if someone checks you, you get notified that the king is checked. You can't make any other move, and you can't make illegal moves either. So it doesn't really rock your brain as much. So yeah, 3D chess is way better if you have a chance to play that. But I think we can get started. As I said, we solved some puzzles in August. We had three pieces covered: rook, pawn, and knight. And I don't think a lot of people joined when we had a night stream, but that was a wonderful, wonderful stream. There were so many beautiful puzzles. So if you missed the stream, please just try to find the video and rewatch it because I mean the knight patterns are incredible. Okay, the knight is my favorite piece, by the way. And today we're covering the bishop, which means we're gonna be talking about how the bishop can checkmate. And you can see the small board to my right, which is all about pattern recognition. And in this small board, you can see that we have a king. Actually, let me see if I accidentally opened not the first. Yeah, that was the last pattern, by the way. Okay, I apologize. Now we're gonna have another pattern on the board. Let me see if something changes for you. So practically, we're gonna have a position and we need to recognize the same pattern. And in the first one, you can see that the bishop is checkmating the king because the king is smothered in a way, like when it happens with the knight's checkmate. The bishop is a unique piece because it's moving only using diagonals. Sometimes it's a very huge disadvantage because it can go to another color, but in some cases, in many cases, this is a huge, huge benefit. Yeah, exactly. So chess is all about critical thinking. You want to recognize it, and you want to not just learn something that you hear, but be able to criticize your thinking to find the truth in a possession. So either way, I think we can get started already. We have a beautiful possession, a small diagram next to me, which is all about pattern recognition. And now we're going to watch a short game, a very popular pattern again about checkmating in the opening, the trap that happens if your opponent is pretty bad, and checkmating with the bishop. So after g4, you might have known that there is a trap. Black doesn't want to play pawn h6. And if they do, they practically open this diagonal a bit more because as long as the pawn is on h7, they could push g6 and they could be fine. But when they play h6, it's gonna be a bit weakening already. And after bishop h4, black plays g5. I played it pretty quickly, but I hope you get it. And black thinks they trap the bishop. But I hope you know that in the opening, we want to develop pieces. We don't want to try to hand the bishop right away. And just look at this weak diagonal. So just let me know in the chat if you already know this trap. This is very popular. I mean, in terms of content creation, this is very popular. It basically never happens in a real game. But yes, this is a very famous possession. Anyway, because this diagonal is open, we can try to bring our queen there first. And if black sees it, they're not gonna take our bishop, otherwise they'll get checkmated. So they usually play something like h5 here to block our queen from getting to h5 in the first place. And in such a situation, what we have is this diagonal is open anyway. So you can play bishop to d3 and then getting to g6. And what if black tries to defend everything by playing rook h6, guys? If you don't know this position, please let me know in the chat. And let me know, by the way, if you can hear me well or if that's still not good enough. So what do you do in this position? I'm just gonna wait a little bit more because I'm not sure how huge the delay is between me saying something and you hearing it, to be honest, because it looks like correct. You can sacrifice the queen. Queen h5, and that means the rook is practically overloaded. It has two things to do: to defend the pawn and to defend the square on g6. And in this case, if you make the rook distracted, if you distract the rook by focusing its attention on one of the things it was doing, then you can checkmate. And once again, the checkmate is beautiful, and you can practically see the exact same pattern. After that, you play bishop g6, and the checkmate is unavoidable, very beautiful, very good. In other words, you can see this is the exact same thing over here. And now, okay, maybe I will talk about other positions that you suggest in the chat as well. That sounds good. Yes, sometimes this bishop can get trapped, if that's what you meant. But we have a different position now. Black to move. What do you do in this case? How do you use your bishop's power if you can find it? And please don't be hesitant, don't be shy, write something in the chat, you're gonna love it. Be a part of it, an active part, not just, don't just spend time watching, rather participating and thinking and suggesting your moves. It could be very, very good for you. So how do you win here? In the future, we're going to have slightly more advanced puzzles, but we're going to start with something easier just for the sake of warming up. What do you do here to use your bishop? Okay, anyone? I hope the internet connection is fine because I don't receive any response. Let me try something though, guys. Okay, maybe that was a bit complicated though. Okay, perfect. Yes, you solved it. Please let me know once again if the sound is good or do you want me to fix it? Because if so, maybe I could take a quick break to try to enhance the translation because I don't think many people join. So just let me know, please. Okay. So practically, yes, the solution is you wanna checkmate the king and you wanna use the pattern that you see on the small board. And if you play queen f3 right away, trying to checkmate with the bishop, you're just practically losing because the king has an escape square. So what you can do first is I need to get rid of those arrows. How did they appear? Okay, what you can do first is queen to f1 check, forcing the bishop to block, and then queen f3 check. And if the bishop takes, because practically they don't have any other option, you go bishop f3 and that's checkmate. And the game is over. And once again, the exact same pattern you see on a small board uh, next to me. Perfect. And okay, this is actually the ending of an endgame study. Yes, you can ask. I'm 22. I'm not sure how old I look because some people say I look like 16. Some people that join the stream say that I look like 13, but I'm 22. Either way, let's go back to the puzzle. Here it's white to move, no, sorry, it's black to move, and that's the ending of an endgame study. And what I want to show you right now is a very beautiful idea. The entire endgame study, the puzzle was super complicated, shorten it down to this position, and what we have here is e2. Black is trying to promote, so white doesn't have any choice. They have to take the pawn. And after that, the king goes to b7, trying to take the rook. And well, if we just lose the rook, it looks pretty good for black, not for white. So what are you gonna do, guys? If you white here, how are you gonna continue the game? Yeah, that was an endgame study, so it had to go there. Long story short. But yes, the bishop trapped the rook, the king got closer, and it's white to move. What will we do, guys? You need to be creative, otherwise you're gonna lose the game. And hey, welcome to the stream. What do you think? Again, we use the exact same example we have on a small diagram. And as you can see, I'm trying not to talk too much to not distract you from the beauty of this possession. Because I know you can solve it. Okay, good. You're actually thinking in the right direction. So yes, you play bishop f3 and the idea is simple. You use the exact same pattern once again. The king cannot take the rook because of the checkmate. But of course, if you're a strong chess player, you should consider a move like a6. So black is still having the rook trapped and they're preparing to take it on the next move. But here, you can actually take the pawn on c6 with your bishop first. And well, in this situation, if the king takes, you don't take the pawn, you take the bishop and you win the game. So life is pretty good here. And once again, yes, you practically by finding this chance to after e2 take the pawn and then have the queen, the king trapped on the side of the board, you find a way to win the game instead of just trying to save your rook. So I hope you enjoyed this possession. And now I think we can go to the next pattern. We have the second pattern, practically very similar to the first one. Your bishop is checkmating the king, and in this case, you use your pawn's help to do that. And let's just take an example on on another of another endgame study, which is beautiful and complicated at the same time. This position is already, I think, the ending. Also, I didn't get to the beginning of the endgame study. I just showed you the middle part of it. So, yes, here, white to move. And as you can see, black has a little bit more pieces than you. Few, just couple more pieces. So, you need to find something good to do, and I'm curious if you can use your bishop's power to do that. And yes, speaking of Vietnam, I've been here before. And what city have you lived in? Just curious. And if you just started watching the stream, guys, join us in solving those beautiful puzzles using the pattern that you see next to me, how the bishop checkmates the king. That's pretty good, and I'm sure you can do it. And of course, if something's not working properly, also let me know in the chat. Your feedback is super important. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Hi. Join us solving puzzles. Here it's white to move. How can you use your bishop's power to the fullest? Especially given the king's situation at the edge of the board. There's something you can do about it. Open to any suggestions, guys. Let me know. I'm just gonna wait a little bit more, guys, because once again, I don't want to go for it very quickly, especially given that there is not a lot of people watching. I want to give you some time to think. And the first move is queen to d8, check. And they can move the king away. If they do, they kind of get checkmated right away. So instead, they have to block with the bishop. And now we can use the power of our bishop. Given that the king is suffocating, our pawn is about to help, we can actually play queen to h4, check. And after this move, if they take our queen, we checkmate them. Pretty good. But if they try to escape, we get the queen and then we make a fork and we end up having more pieces than our opponent at the end. So I think we can call it a good deal for us. Either way, using the same pattern. And this is actually the middle game position, and you can use the exact same pattern, which is a bit harder to recognize given that you still have your bishops on the first and second ranks, but you can checkmate. You can do it or you win some material, and I'm absolutely positive you can do it. This is maybe my favorite position out of today's puzzles. I would call it my favorite one. And I want to give you some time to explore it as well. Almost there, but you can make it more forcing. Well, yeah, I think I know what you mean, Mark. So here, the first move is b4. You both right. You make the queen go away, and if they don't, you just take the queen for free. So let's assume they have to. And then instead of playing bishop b2 and giving your opponent a chance to defend, you actually play queen f6 check. And if they take you, we get to the exact same pattern, having our pawn protect us, I mean, guard the king a bit further. And this is not checkmate because they have one more move, but it doesn't save them from anything. You can take the queen and the game is over. And honestly, I think this is so beautiful. It's not like it's hard to find it. It's mostly about recognizing that there is a checkmating opportunity there. And I mean, I just love this. So I hope you do too. All right. And this one is actually pretty easy, especially in comparison to the previous one, in my opinion. You have the exact same idea, and you can actually checkmate by force, let's say in 4 moves. You can checkmate in 4 moves here, and I mean, your opponent can't do anything about it unless they want to give the queen away, and you still win the game. So, how can you do it? Can you find a winning combination here? And if you just joined, guys, welcome. Please do not forget. I think I should pin the message, by the way. I realized I didn't do it. Yes, I think that's pretty good now. We're just solving some puzzles, guys, and you can join us for that. And then we're gonna watch some games. Not in like complete details, I would say, not fully, but some key moments from the games which are interesting to watch. Otherwise, we can sit here for hours analyzing even one game. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting, especially for those who send the games for analysis. If you haven't, you can do it for the next stream using the links that are attached to the description of this video as well as to the channel description. And there is a Nightbot saying everything as well. So yeah, either way, black to move. Well, yes, maybe f5 is kind of blocking the white king, but can't you do it by force to limit anything your opponent can do? And I'm not sure if after king h7 the king is out of checks, right? There is queen b7 as well. But yeah, maybe you checkmate anyway, but not sure. Hi, I'm not sure if I remember you, to be honest. I'm not sure if you were a frequent guest at the streams, but welcome. Maybe I remember your username if you played me. What do you think? Actually, after f5, I think I don't have to check you and try to do something there. I think I could just play queen g3, offering a queen trade and blocking your queen from doing anything further. I think that would work. So, again, an arrow, but I hope somebody already solved that. So, queen h2, the king has to go to g4, and then what? How do you continue the attack? Right, f5. check. And after f5, the king has to go to g5. And what now? What happens after now? Okay, perfect. Queen sacrifice to distract the white queen. And after that, you can finally checkmate the same way we already talked about. And your pawns are helping you. Good job. Good job. Okay, and this one is also not the beginning, but I would say the middle of another complicated but beautiful puzzle. Good job on the previous one once again. Here, white move. And what are you gonna do if you want to checkmate, guys? It was beautiful. Hi, by the way. Here you have another beautiful mate, and let's say it's checkmate in 5 moves. I'm pretty sure you can find it. Of course, your first, thing that you can think about is trying to promote your pawn on h7. But again, whenever you play a game, the first thing that you want to look at is your opponent's king. So yes, you start with sacrificing your queen by taking the bishop. They take your queen, and what do you do next? How do you continue the attack? Yeah, the queen broke free for sure. So what is coming next? Check is okay, that makes sense, but you don't have a queen. Okay, good job, Rudra. A3 check. The king has to go to a4. And what is coming next? When we move pieces on the board, it's getting easier to see it, but practically it's not that easy to even look at the black king. How many pawn on h7 usually this pawn instead? Good job, yes, rook c4 check, and after they take you, amazing. Okay, why did the move not happen? Bishop c6, beautiful checkmate. Yes. And once again, I'm telling you, this is not easy to do that whatsoever. Something happened to my lichess. Maybe laptop got tired. But either way, what I'm trying to say is this is not something that comes to everyone's mind immediately. But if you solve many puzzles, if you know you want to checkmate with a bishop, it's getting easier to find. And this is why we're here. We're learning new puzzles. We're expanding your knowledge on the bishop's ability. And I love this one, guys. I'm not sure if you can solve it fast, but this is so worth it. This puzzle will give you such a huge amount of joy and a sense of beauty as well. White you move and you can checkmate in 4 moves. I'm not sure if I can change, sorry, I'm not sure if I can guess your age just by the way you solve puzzles, but your elo has to be above 1800s, I would say. Your elo has to be above that. Mm, okay. I'm not sure if you know this person in person, but alright. Guys, how do you solve this puzzle? I mean, you have to be good. You have to be good. You solved the previous puzzle pretty fast. Alright, what about this one, guys? White is winning in many different ways, but you can win in a beautiful, beautiful way. Oh, this is fun. I think I had a couple of other subscribers that started using the chat and realized they're both watching the stream. This is fun. Okay, you're pretty good for your age and for your rating as well. But okay, how do you checkmate here? C4 is not a bad move whatsoever, but it's not leading to a checkmate. You can promote your pawns and checkmate afterwards, but instead, remember the pattern we use with our dear bishop. And maybe for your convenience, I need to make it a bit bigger, guys, so that you see this dear bishop. Okay, like this. Not sure if that's a little bit better, but let me know if it is. Either way, in a situation like that, your bishop wants to checkmate and the black king has just this square to go to. And if it just goes back and forth, maybe the bishop can checkmate it on a black square. But if you move the bishop somewhere, the king will go to b4. So you want to start with c3 first. And now the king is in the prison or in the box, whatever you choose. So it has to go to a5. And now find a way to maneuver your bishop to checkmate the king. I know you can do it. And this is just so good. Once again, I just enjoy solving those puzzles very much. How can you maneuver your bishop to checkmate the king? And I don't like the way it looks. When no one writes in the chat, I practically think it's the internet connection. So guys, once again, your feedback is very important. If something is not working, just text me, let me know in the chat, okay? I was just checking if everything was good. How do you checkmate in 2 moves? I would say you have a little bit more than 2 moves, 3 moves to checkmate. But if you can find it at 2, let me know. How can you checkmate in 3 moves from here? I'm gonna wait a little bit more and then tell you the solution. You're gonna love it if you couldn't find it, trust me. And again, if you can solve any puzzle, please do not get upset. As soon as you see the solution, you learn something new, and this is what matters. Well, bishop b4 is good, but bishop h6 is better. Remember, the king has nowhere to go. It can go just back and forth, back and forth. So after the king goes to b5, you can go to d2. Surprise, a hidden attack on the king. And from here, pawn to c4, beautiful checkmate. Let me know what you think of this position, because I think this is a bit advanced, but so beautiful. You had many different ways of winning the game, just pushing the pawn, promoting to queens. Somebody would even promote to three queens, but you don't have to do that. You could have checkmated in four moves by doing that, and I mean, that gives me so much joy, honestly. It brings me so much joy. And now we have the last pattern for today to know about. Practically, in this pattern, our king helps our bishop to checkmate. And there is one super duper famous endgame study that I saw so many times when I was a kid. And this is it. This is the endgame study that maybe I saw more than 10 times in different textbooks when I was studying chess as a kid. Why to move and win the game. Let me know what moves come to your mind, and we're gonna go through this together, because if you can find a solution right away and write it in full text on your own, that would be great, of course. But let's let's wait, because this is very beautiful. And let me see, guys, because I'm happy to see this actually at least, yeah, at least three or four familiar faces texting in the chat. So thanks for being here. So what do you think you should do here, guys? So as you can see, you have a bishop. You have a bishop and a pawn. Without the pawn, you can't win the game, people tell you, because the bishop and the king will lead to a draw. That's true, but if your opponent's king is cornered, like you see in the small diagram, it practically means you can. And check the king first. If you take right away, you're gonna lose this pawn, and the king won't be cornered whatsoever, so you don't want to do that. Instead, you can give a check like this. And the king has to go to g8, otherwise you can promote your pawn. And after that, you can push g7. And well, let's say the king tries to run away. King f7. And now that's where the beauty happens. Pawn to g8. Something happened to my lichess, guys. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I can't even choose. Okay, now I can. Queen to g8. And that's, yeah, I hope you saw that. That was super weird. Queen to g8. We promoted the pawn, forcing the king to go back to g8. Take it. And after that, our king goes to e6. And what does it mean? Black has just one move, king to h8. And after this move, we have king to f7. And they can just push the pawn wherever they go. Bishop g7 is checkmate. And that's the idea, the exact same position you see on the small board down below. Let me know what you see about that. what you think about it, because I'm not sure, guys, if lichess is that laggy. Once again, I hope you can hear me well. That was definitely a wow. That's a good question. That's a very good question. What if instead of playing king f7 and letting you win this way, they actually push a pawn? Let's say they give you a check. You can't take the pawn because that would be a draw, and you can go to e5 because that would also be a draw. And well, that leaves you no option but to play king d6. And if they keep pushing the pawn, then you just ignore it because you can get in time to g7 pawn to protect it with your king. And now after they push e3, you just take it, and practically it's not a stalemate. They can push a pawn now, and that just leads to a winning position for you because it's not a stalemate anymore. And that was a wonderful question. Thanks for asking. So yeah, that's the idea behind this puzzle. Let's solve a couple more puzzles and then we start talking about the games that you sent to me. And okay, this is actually a very beautiful one. I want to show you the idea and I want to see if you can follow the same pattern in maybe the next puzzle as well. So here it's white to move, and as you can see black has one more pawn, but we don't care about it right now. We can give them a check like queen g3, and after queen g3 they can go to f5. So it's legal but it's not good because of the skewer, and using this idea we kind of force them to block with the bishop. And now, actually, this is already another pattern that we discussed before, but I think now we're gonna have a couple of puzzles with combined ideas, different patterns that we already discussed. And I'm pretty sure if you solved puzzles from the beginning, this one is not gonna be a hard puzzle for you to solve. Why, Timo? Yes, next move. I'm pretty sure you can do that. You can, because you know we're talking about the bishop's power in this game. So, yeah. Queen to h4, check. Inviting them to take you back. And if they do, you have bishop f6 checkmate. If they don't, we're gonna use the same pattern that we had before. Queen f6, and now they have to go back to the f5 square. And after they do that, queen d3 skewer, the queen is getting lost. So congratulations, you got it. And we're gonna have a very beautiful idea, by the way, a very beautiful idea of another queen sack, if you know what I mean, and the way to checkmate with your bishop. Why to move? Thank you, I'm glad you're enjoying the puzzles. Why to move? How can you checkmate in this game? How can you win? Let's solve just two more puzzles because I don't think you're being pretty active, and maybe game analysis will spark you up. So here you can take the bishop. That's a check. Back with the pawn, you have a wonderful, beautiful queen to h8. And after the king takes, king to f7. And the checkmate is unstoppable. The next move is bishop f6. Look at the board. You have just a bishop and a pawn against two rooks, a bunch of pawns and a bishop, and nothing can stop you. They can give you a check with a rook, but it's not saving them. Unavoidable. And this is it about this puzzle. I hope you enjoyed it. And let's do this one as the last puzzle. My lichess refuses to think properly anymore, it's dying. But this is the last puzzle, and your rook is hanging. Can you find a way to checkmate the black king? The rook is hanging. Yes, if it's this, I think, let me just say thank you for telling me, by the way. I really appreciate it. Let me show the solution for this one, and then I'm gonna take a break to fix everything for the game analysis. So we can go knight f5, and if they don't take a rook, we'll go rook h1. So they have to take a rook, and after they do, we go knight to g7. And because the black king is stalemated, they have to move their bishop. And the only available spot is g7, taking the knight, which will lead to taking, and that's checkmate. And I really hope you enjoyed this one. That was a very, very beautiful one. And now let's take a quick break before we go and talk about the analysis of the games that you sent to me a month ago. I know it's been a while, but thank you to everyone who participated. And yes, knight g7 is a very, very good move. Let me know what you think of those bishop puzzles. I really appreciate, guys. Thank you for being here and texting in the chat. I appreciate that you're doing it. I think it's very good for your development. And I'm gonna be back very, very soon. Now I'm gonna fix everything and prepare for the game analysis as well. So instead of the live class, now we're gonna have another image. This one. And I hope you enjoy it. I'm just gonna set a timer this way. And let's see, guys. Let me know if you can hear me well now. If that's better. I'm not sure if that's it. That is because I tried to fix the settings, but I'm not sure if that's working. So please let me know if you can hear me well. I hope so, because now we're starting with the favorite game analysis. And let's see. 1 second, I forgot to open the chat. So I had a lot of interesting games sent to me. And if you're new to the channel and you want to participate in game analysis next time, make sure you subscribe to the channel to not miss anything and to support me. And you send your game to the Discord club. So there's a Discord link you can find practically anywhere in the description to the channel, to this video, or even in the chat. The Nightbot sends the link to the Discord. So either way, thank you to everyone who participated in this and who sent their games. I want to make sure you can hear me, and so that we can get started with everything again. Once again, this is the second part of the stream. Thank you for bearing with me, whoever started an hour ago, and let's see. Actually, your game was a very interesting one, but I wanna show you the game that my students showed me today, and I was like, what? Honestly, I didn't know people could even play this way, and today we are talking about it. And by the way, let me change my location a little bit since there is no board next to me. So yeah, thank you for supporting me. Either way, let me just get started with this game. And this is not how you want to play chess. No, please do not play this way. So white started with f4, and okay, f4 on its own is not a bad move. I have a game review open because my students sent it to me, so I'm not sure how to actually cancel it. But anyway, e6, alright. Black is also not a high rated chess player, but he's trying to do something, and you see king is already on f2. And now white plays king to g3. Like, okay, interesting. Bishop b4, black is trying to develop, not the best move, but I mean, it can be explained. King g4, okay, I mean, where is white even going? e5, surprise, that's a check. And after king h5, black can actually checkmate in one move. They didn't find it. They just took the pawn on f4. But they didn't save white whatsoever. They played c3 and got checkmated. That's move number 6. That's move number 6. The white king is on h5 on move number 6. Yes, he's not white, he's just black. And he's also not a high-rated chess player. But his opponent leaves me wondering if, by some accident, you're the player who played white and you're watching this stream. Please do not move your king out this way unless you want to lose, because this is what people call harakiri. You just... What is going on, guys? Do not play this way. Okay, so now we can start it with some actual game analysis. Let me make sure if that's... Oh, no. I didn't want to open the ending right away. So, okay, let's start with this game first. Let's see. Okay, I hope, everything's working. So, this is a game that... Now, if you're new to the channel, we're watching games that my subscribers or viewers send to me to Discord once again. And in this game, I believe my subscriber was white and he played something that is called a Panseani trap. And honestly, I've never seen this trap before myself. And if you have, let me know in the chat. Maybe it's just me missing out on something. But what happened is we had a normal Panseani opening. starting with c3 on the third move. I mean, bishop c4 is better in the way of preventing d5. But okay, he played c3, knight f6, d4, the knight takes, d5, knight e7, and okay, this position makes sense. That makes total sense. Now he plays bishop d3. And what should black do? After bishop d3, black may want to capture this knight on e5. That's a hangy knight in the center. White will capture back, but I mean, that would be a trade. We capture, they capture, everyone is equal. This is not Benoni, this is Panseani. If I pronounce it right, let me know if I don't. Instead, black plays knight f2, and honestly, I just wonder who would even consider knight f2. So if that's a real trap, who would even play knight f2? Because you're not winning anything. Are you? So that's an interesting thing. So here, white takes the knight on g6. And this is the beauty of this position. Let me actually add a brilliant move to this thing. So bishop g6 is definitely a brilliant move. I mean, I don't know why somebody would play knight f2. Let me know if you know. Okay, bishop to g6. And actually, bishop g6 is the only move here, to be honest. If you play queen f3, you're getting knight e5, and it's not a fine move whatsoever. If that's where you meant to play. Oh, if you meant to play queen f3 right now, then yes, that would make some sense. But okay, then we have this, and maybe that's a trap, because practically bishop g6 is the only move that exists. And if you take on f2, then maybe you're the one who's getting attacked by playing bishop c5. I don't know, honestly, I never saw this variation myself, but let me know if you have. And bishop g6, sacrificing the queen. And now the most beautiful part begins. After that, what we have is bishop f7 check. The king has to go to e7. Bishop g5 check. The king has to go to d6. Knight c4 check. The king has to go to c5. And now we can just take the queen on d8 and call it a day. White has a very, very beautiful move. Knight a3. And by making this move, we're developing a piece, leaving the bishop b on g5 and protecting our knight on c4. Most importantly, defending our knight. And since black suspects nothing, even if they do suspect something, it's too late to change it. Because after this move, b4 is a checkmate. Honestly, once again, I never saw this shot before. I find it very beautiful. I would not consider knight f2 on my own, to be honest, if I was black. But since white had just one continuation, I mean, that was worth it. Bishop g6 was a very beautiful move, a queen sacrifice, and this is a king checkmate on the move number 13. So yes, we can call it good. If you're telling me there is another good move, hold on a second. So you're saying that here, instead of playing knight f2, black can play queen f6, right? That's what you meant. But I mean, you're not gonna take this pawn. You're attacking my knight. At the very least, I think I could go knight g4. I think I could go knight g4 and I could be satisfied with what's going on over here. But either way, I would rate this game, I would maybe 9 out of 10, because I didn't know this idea and the position was very beautiful at the end. And now I want to talk about the second game, and honestly, this is gonna be your game. I'm not sure how I can refer to you. By the way, you can write your name in the chat if you want to, or we can keep it anonymous. Something almost fell down my table. But anyway, the game was interesting. The opening was not good whatsoever. And in this game, white made 3 brilliant moves and still lost the game. You needed to find the 4th brilliant move to win it. And I think, okay, JK, right? Should I pronounce JK? Perfect. So the opening wasn't good by any means, but the middle game was beautiful, so we're gonna skip the opening part. Again, I do not recommend playing queen h5 to anyone who's above 400 elo, because this is not how you want to play. So black defended and you retreated back. I mean, you can't call it a serious opening, right? So anyway, we're skipping this part, but I wanted to mention g4, by the way. For people that are below 1000 or 1500 points, then a K move. As long as you don't have your king castle to this side. So your king still has an opportunity to go to the different side. And that means you're not weakening yourself, and you're putting your opponent's bishop in an awkward position to g6. So we can call it good. And now, black castle to the long side. And from now on, I actually like the way white played. That was meaningful. We developed. And here, of course, we do not take this pawn on h5, guys. We don't want to open files for our opponent ever. So g5, we close it for the time being. We don't let him attack it. What if he sacks the knight? That's a great question. If you mean here, if he sacrifices the knight, he's not even attacking our king. Our king is right here, so let him do it. We take it, and after bishop g4, at the very least, if you're worried that he's gonna attack your knight even more, at the very least you can just go bishop e2 to defend the knight, and then you can develop the second bishop and carefully castle to the different side, so they're not gonna be able to attack you very much here. I hope that's clear now. And that's a good question, because a lot of people worry about that. So either way, you develop 95, making black pieces passive. And now white plays b4. And this is a moment I wanted to discuss, guys, because practically the white king is still in the center and the rooks are not united. So in many cases you want to castle. You can do it to the queen side, but if you castle to the queen side, you limit your attacking options, because it will be harder for you to push pawns from your king side. You don't want to go to the short side either, because you have this pawn on g5. So as soon as you castle, you're gonna be the target for your opponent to attack you. They're gonna play something like maybe pawn f5, try to open files, and if you take on, they're gonna try to maybe use those created open spaces to attack your king, which you don't want to get into. So instead, here, that I think it's pretty reasonable not to castle at all just for now, because the black king is already here and we have an easy access to start attacking it. Maybe another thing that would make sense is to start with a4 and start pushing this pawn first. That would make sense as well, but b4 makes sense to me too, so I can't complain about this move. Knight b6. Black is trying to maybe trade their crowded position and make it easier for themselves, but this just creates another hook for us to attack, and this is what white does successfully in this game. They play a4, and after knight e7, by the way, guys, I wanted to mention that white played a5, and that makes sense because he wants to open the rook to attack the black king. Okay, that's a good point. We're gonna discuss it. So here you want to open the rook, but you're gonna get b5. And in this game, what you did worked. What you did worked. That was very, very beautiful. But instead, you can also consider, if you know that your opponent's not gonna let you trade after a5, you're not forcing him to open the file, maybe you can consider starting with b5 first, so that you stop this pawn from going at all. The pawn is not moving anywhere. And then you can play a5. I think that could also be a good idea to keep in mind. Speaking of playing a4 and getting a5, if they play a5, this is actually the hook that you can try to use to open files, because b4 is still possible. Your knight is protecting the pawn. And if he takes, I mean, good for you. At the very least, you can take him back, or you can even try to, keep pushing the pawn because the space is open now. So either way, a4 or b4, both moves make sense to me. So, okay, that's what we had. A4, a5, and the opponent figured out he could go b5. That's a good question. Okay, so b5, and here, this is move number 17. The most interesting part of the game begins. 3 brilliant moves are gonna wait for you just in a second. And here, pawn to a6, sacrificing the bishop, saying, okay, you can take it. And if they do, pawn to a7 will be possible. Black didn't do that, because now if the king goes to a8, you can actually not, it's not just a fork, it's a checkmate. And I mean, if they escape to a different side, you just promote to the second queen, right? So a6 was a wonderful, good move that we had. Okay, I actually moved for black very quick. I takes d5, you take back, and after c6, you make a very, very, very interesting move again. To this bishop, you play, I hope you remember what you did, because I want you to be proud of yourself. Queen to e3. And you kind of say goodbye to this bishop, which your opponent happily takes without realizing that this is what you've been doing all along. You've been trying to open this file for your rook, and now you can do it. And knight to g4. What? You sacrifice another piece. I think by accident I make moves for black very quickly, guys. Let me know if you managed to see what's going on. So yeah, black tried to block the attack. They play d4. If they took on b6, it goes without saying that the king is gonna get checkmated there one way or another. You can go queen a7, or you can even go rook a7, and you're gonna checkmate the king over there. The fastest one is queen a7. After the king goes like this, it can't really escape far, even if it tries. Oh. And after king e6, queen to d5 will be checkmate. So long story short, they can't really escape from that. And this, they play d4, trying to block the queen, trying to not let you do anything. But you were smarter than this, and you sacked your knight, as I already said. You sacked once again. There is nothing they can do. You're getting into a very good position, and they took on b7. They could have taken the knight, they would have saved them. And you already made 3 brilliant moves by sacrificing the bishop twice and by sacrificing your knight. Not to mention, you had 1 minute on your clock over here, which is absolutely brilliant. It blows my mind. Oh, the game is very, very good, to be honest. I think the game is fascinating, and I can't explain. I mean, I really enjoyed watching it, to be honest. So here, you just needed to find the final brilliant move. The final move was, I mean, that leads to some complicated positions, but that was another brilliant move that you needed to see to win this game, and that was rook to a7, and I forgot to add a symbol to it. Rook a7, sacrificing a rook like this, and check. So what can they do? If they don't take you, you say thank you, and you keep attacking them practically, because, I mean, you already opened their space completely. And I believe after a move like that, you can even play something like knight to e6. And the thing is, you opened your queen. So imagine they take you, they can't stop the checkmate from coming whatsoever. They could try to block the square, but they can't do anything. So after rook a7, what if they take? Yeah, rook a7 was a complicated line, and here it goes, another beautiful variation. Knight takes b5, and after that, let's say your opponent plays king to b7. Queen a7, that makes sense, but after king c6, you needed to find pawn to c4. And, well, that means your knight is protected. You're threatening queen c7. And you're threatening something else. So let's say they go rook c8, protecting, defending from queen c7. Then you have knight d4 check. And after the pawn takes, pawn b5 checkmate. And this is so beautiful. I don't think that 1 minute is enough to find this combination, but if you did, you could call yourself a chess master, at least a chess master. You made three brilliant moves in this game. And by the way, your rating was 1,800 points when you played this game, which makes it even more fascinating. Given how badly the opening turned out with you trying to fools mate, given your high rating, do not play this opening, and how you managed to start an attack, to open files, to checkmate your opponent, to sacrifice the pieces so many times, and then unfortunately when you're under 2 minutes you didn't find rook a7, which was the fourth brilliant move in this game. And here instead you played king to d2, and practically being low on time, you spent around 1 minute and trying to calculate everything, but you lost your entire advantage. Another quick move, gosh, sorry. You lost your entire advantage being low on time, and your opponent ended up being slightly up in material with no troubles coming to his king, which is of course pretty pleasant for black. And given that you have seconds left, you lost by time, and being realistic, you don't really have any option to do anything over here because you lost your attacking chances and he has more pieces. So practically that's it about the game. That was 3 brilliant moves played here. 3 beautiful, brilliant moves. And you needed to find the 4th move to win. But yes, time travel. Do you think you could have found it if it wasn't for time? Yes, I do read the chat. Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, guys, what do you think of this? I think that was extremely beautiful. But hold on. I want to hear your opinion on that. And welcome to the chat, by the way. I think you're new here. What do you think? I think yeah, YouTube is working well. Well, as Mihail Tal said, when you blunder something but you win. No, it's not what he said. He had another phrase, but the phrase was if you blunder something and you win, you call it a sacrifice. Yes, 22 coin. Welcome to the chat. Yes, you can improve. Just hang in there, like stay tuned, and we gonna help you improve and get to 1000 elo. There is a course that I made which is gonna be released soon. I'm gonna let you know more about it in the future, about how to make a plan, especially for those who are below 1000 elo. It's gonna be highly beneficial. So anyway, I'm gonna rate this game again 9 out of 10, just because I love those 3 brilliant moves, the attacking ideas that you managed to find in such a short time control. They were incredible, and I wish you could have found Rook a7. That would have made you a really, really strong chess player in this, my opinion. That was extremely good and beautiful. And now let's move on to the next game. Again, I have questions to the honestly. I don't know why you do things that you do, but alright. I wanted to answer your question because I promised that we're not gonna focus on the games completely. We're gonna watch some key moments from each game to keep it short and sweet instead of overcomplicating everything. And in your message on Discord, you asked me what you need to do, how you need to push this h4 pawn when you don't want to block h6, because if you play h6 you practically stop the entire attack. You block your bishop, you block your rook, but you still want to attack the king, so you want to know how to do it well. Interesting. If that's how you learn doing it by yourself, I actually admire that. Yes, you can play that opening, but if you understand it better than your opponent does, you're gonna get to a very high level at some point. You're gonna outplay them in the middle game, but try to be more solid, because if you lose something straight from the opening, if you give your opponent way more initiative, chances are you're not gonna outplay them in the long run. But okay, let's go back to this game. You played h5 and he actually had the guts to castle. What to do now? Of course, as I said, h6 doesn't seem like a good option. And usually you just want to take this pawn. You just want to take it, so that then you can use the fact that your rook is on an open file to attack your opponent. And here you have multiple chances of doing so. One of them may not look like as the best option, but practically you have a straightforward thing. You want to go to somewhere like queen h4 and attack your opponent. And again, the idea is beautiful, but I do not appreciate it to the, I would say, fullest extent, because you still have your entire army over here. So your idea is good, but maybe you should develop it and then attack. So yes, you can take, and the ideal getting there and then there, but maybe it's not worth the risk given that you still have your army undeveloped. You can start even with queen c2, by the way, so that you're gonna be aiming here, and then you can develop this bishop here to pin the knight. And I mean, at the very least, you're always gonna have a more comfortable position than your opponent, given that the h file is already open. So yes. Hi, focus. Don't worry. If you worry about your rating, you worry about the wrong thing. So the rating is not the result of your practice. This is just something that I don't want you to be focused on the rating. Your progress will happen and the rating will show it. It's not like if you have a high rating, it means you're a strong chess player. If your rating is going higher and higher, gradually, long term, you see the statistics are going up, that means you're improving. Not because you just got to 2000 elo and you never want to play chess again to keep this rating, to not fall down, to not start spiraling. This is not the case. You want to keep playing, and even if you go back and lose 200 elo, it means there is something that you're missing that you can work on. Maybe you need to analyze your games first and foremost. You need to understand why you're losing and work on that, and that's how you improve. Practically, yes. No, I haven't. I haven't watched it. Hi, Billy. And we have Discord. Yes, we have Discord. You can use it and send your games. But the thing is, what I was talking about this position is everything is undeveloped. So this is a bit risky. And you actually played well. You played well. Everything looked smooth. Again, the move for black was made super quickly. I don't know why it happens. Sorry for that. And you played queen g2, and again, taking on g6 is a great option. And if they take back, look at this pawn. This is your target for future events. You can even do it right away, to be honest. You can even play queen g2 here and then aim to go there, and you're still gonna be super duper happy attacking the black king. However, okay, you started with queen g2, not a bad move. Again, a very quick move. I don't know why it happens. Maybe I press on the mouse too quickly. Can you just use the Nightbot? You can, I think, write the Discord fully and you're gonna see it. Let me try. I think I made it like this. And after that, I hope that it will be sent. Yes, perfect. So now it's in the chat. Alright, going back to the position. Queen g2, that wasn't bad. g4, That was a bit risky, to be honest, because of some tactical ideas that your opponent could have had here. And honestly, he could have taken this pawn. That may look as a surprise, but practically after the pawn takes, this knight has to defend the bishop and the pawn at the same time. So if the knight takes, it attacks the pawn, the knight. So you can take like this, check, fork, and that means that you have to take like this, but then you lose here. And even though you have one more piece, black has a lot of pawns, and that's a huge question where your king is going. Because if you just move your queen somewhere, you're gonna get attacked. And if you take this pawn, I mean, you're gonna get in trouble. Once again, the problem with you having an completely undeveloped position, which is so bad for you. So you don't want to have your position so undeveloped. And well, this is the result. But he didn't see that. And now, oh, again, sorry, I didn't know what's going on. Now you take on g6. Bishop takes, knight e4, and pawn h7. And let me just tell you that in my opinion, the pawn takes h7 is the biggest mistake. Even though it's still winning the game. The problem is now your opponent is gonna use your pawn, your own pawn, not his pawn, but your pawn, to use it as a shield. So now your pawn is a betrayer. So after he goes king h8, your pawn is the only thing that stops you from attacking. You wish it was gone. If the pawn is gone, the attack is present. So by taking on h7, in fact, you ruined your chances to attack. You overcomplicated them instead of making them possible. So here, pawn takes, king h8, and you struggled to come up with something. Even though you're still winning, that was complicating the situation. Instead, you should have taken on e4 either way, with the knight or with the bishop. I like with the knight more to open this diagonal. And if they take you, practically you don't really have to take back anymore. You can just play queen h6 right away. And you're gonna have a wonderful position once again, because this is your opponent's pawn. And if that's your opponent's pawn, this is something you can attack. But in the game, what happened in the game was this pawn stopped you from attacking him. Check this out. It's not a check. You're not attacking anything. And in fact, he started to try to counterattack you, and you still had a wonderful position. Honestly, here, I think your best... Yeah, you stopped. You went away from the trade. You didn't want to trade. But in my opinion, your best option was to actually take the queen. Because after that, you can check this out. You have two more pawns. You have a chance to develop your position fully. And maybe in the future use the pawn to try to checkmate. Maybe promote instead of trying to checkmate with the queen. And that is better simply because your king is right here in the center. So even though you had a wonderful, beautiful attack going on in your opponent, you kind of screwed the chances because you started the attack too early. Your king wasn't ready, your pieces weren't ready for that. Even though you got a wonderful position to attack, then you screwed your chances by taking the pawn on h7 and making your pawn a betrayer, because now it was protecting the black king from your attacks. And now when you have a chance to trade because you have more material, you miss it. So your opponent has a chance to counterattack you, to open the position, and to kind of force a lot of things at the same time. Yeah, but you shouldn't avoid an endgame if you want to become a strong chess player. If you avoid end games, you're not gonna go far, to be honest. Just study them. Do not avoid them. Because practically I accidentally opened the ending position. But yes, this is... I already discussed the most important thing. Hold on. Something got laggy. Okay, I can't click anywhere for some reason. So there was a situation. Hold on, I wanted to show it to you. There was a situation. Oh no, practically no. I forgot. I mixed it up with another game. But I still can watch anything. So practically, because your king was still in the center, it stayed in the center throughout the entire game. The attack didn't work well. So if you do want to play middle games more than you want to play end games, which you should not avoid, by the way. You want to focus on coordinating your pieces instead of starting an attack and then trying to bring something closer. If everything is close already, it will be easier to start an attack. Not that you just push the okay, suit yourself. But I'm telling you, you shouldn't avoid end games just because you think middle games are more fun for yourself. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. And okay, actually, that's the third game that you sent to me as well. That was the third game that you played, and you said you liked this game. And we're gonna skip the opening part again. Let's just say that was a very interesting opening because you managed to attack your opponent pretty well, and your opponent bought into that. I think it was a Latvian gambit. That was a game played on lichess. I just added it to chess.com to make it more convenient for everything. Awesome, thanks for joining. And if you're new to the stream, we're analyzing the games but that my viewers sent to me. Make sure that you can ask any questions, you can subscribe the channel if you find it interesting, and yeah, you can send your games for the next stream to analyze as well. So we're gonna focus on some key moments. Again, we already discussed with you that your openings are very interesting and well, they work against your level in a way. But I have a question regarding the middle game. Like here, when you already need to make a plan, guys, what should you do? It's black to move. It's black to move. And you need to find a plan. Yes, perfect. If you send it to me before today, we're watching it today because I copied all those games to one study and we have them all. Your games are definitely interesting, JK. Very interesting for sure, but risky, especially given the middle games that you get. All variations of black openings, that's interesting. Maybe I should make an intro regarding every opening and what styles it will suit. I think that could be good. But teaching every single opening, I don't think it's effective. Practically because, again, the entire game is going to happen in the middle game. And especially if you're below, let's say 1500 points, you don't want to focus on openings 100% of your time. Like you want to do like 10% maybe, but not the entire thing that you cover. Okay, good. So here, guys, Black found a very interesting plan. I'm curious if you have a better plan. Just suggest it in the chat. But honestly, I had questions and I forgot to say it before. This bishop got developed to e7. And that would have been better to have it on d6, especially looking at this knight, looking at the pawn on h2, we're not getting afraid of being checked. If they check us, then we can go bishop e7 because, I mean, they block their bishop. And to develop it, they can play g3, so they have to move the queen again. And if that happens, we just got to the exact same position with your move. So you want a tempo. So bishop d6 would be a bit more active. But let's go to this position that I'm about to talk about. And here, black played pawn to g6, which I find fascinating in a way because it's super duper risky because black wanted to play h5, and not to mention g6 is weak. It's just that you don't have a future pushing this pawn. But maybe I can make a conclusion out of the previous games. You really like opening your opponent's files, and this is a great trait, but you don't want to do it from your king side this way. It's really just too risky. I mean, if your opponent plays bishop g5, this is like an outpost for his bishop because you can't attack it anymore. You can't make the bishop go away with your pawns ever, and you can push h4, so you just weakened your position, and those are the central pawns that your opponent will try to attack. Okay, that's interesting. So what happened instead? Queen d6. Okay, that's what happened. Queen g2, knight e5. That makes sense, and here I believe, if I'm not mistaken, your opponent made a very huge mistake. I'm not sure if I could use very and huge together, but in this case I can, because he allowed you to ruin his pawn structure by playing rook c1. He allowed you to double his pawns and open his king and make every a target on your open file, which is, I mean, that was a super bad mistake for him. He The least he could have done was to play rook e3 to take it with the rook next, or bishop g1 to save the bishop. I mean, he has a wonderful bishop, and what did he get instead? He wanted to take this pawn, I guess, but come on, f3. So now black just could have defended the pawn, but I think black took the risk and you played bishop h3, which was honestly a bit too risky. In my opinion, they could still take the pawn. I don't see the continuation for here. So, oh, okay, if you're saying, hold on, if you say go to h7 to attack the bishop, it could, but what I meant was an outpost is a place where your opponent can place a piece and you can't attack it with a pawn. So if you want to attack it with a knight, it means the position is gonna change. At the very least, I could take here. And I mean, I don't have any complaints. I got rid of the defender of the c5 pawn. And I think I have a pretty good life. You can take with the queen, this pawn is hanging, I'm gonna take it with the bishop. So yeah, not good. Overall, what we got, oh, okay, that's something different. What we got was, what is going on with chess.com? Or maybe I'm using it wrong. So knight f3, bishop h3, knight c5, b6, knight b3, queen d7. Okay, so far everything seems to make sense. And after knight d4, you even played bishop c5. And the difference between this position and your previous game is that you actually have a well-coordinated position. Apart from your pawns being not on the perfect squares, you still have a pretty good... And now, you could have seen some tactics. The pawn is hanging, so you could have played knight to h7. And by making this move, you look at the bishop, you look at the pawn, and let's say they play something like pawn f4. You're gonna say thank you by bringing your queen to checkmate. Again, a very, very beautiful thing to do. So instead what happened, that's what happened. Okay, I'm getting confused with all these games, guys. And I have a question then. Why don't you take the pawn on f3 right now? It looks like a free pawn. But he played h4 and bishop c5. Everything's good because the attack was inevitable anymore. And black is practically just winning the game. Another sacrifice. And well, the game is over. But once again, that was too risky. I would say your opponent had a key mistake by taking the bishop, by allowing you to take the bishop on f3 and open the position out, being careless about your possibilities and your attacks on his side. Overall, I like your style. I like the way you play, but try to be a bit more careful in the sense of coordinating your pieces and not ruining your pawn structure unless you really have to. But all those games were fascinating, and thanks for sending them. Let me know if you learned something else is useful. Now we have a couple more games to cover, and let's start with this one. That was a game which is actually, thank you to my subscriber for annotating it. I really like the fact that I could read his thoughts as well, not just watch the game but also understand his thought process. So he played against a person who has a WAM title, but at the same time her rating is 1,900 points. So it kind of contradicts itself in my mind. To be honest, I can't understand how it can be 1,900 unless that's a very, I would say, adult person. So she's above 50 years old and she just lost all her rating. That's my only explanation for that. But either way, I like what black did here. So black, we're gonna skip the opening, but I like the idea of bringing the bishop to g4 over here, because in this type of closed Sicilian, black is usually not doing it. Black is usually having the bishop over here, and maybe this is something that confused white, and this is why they started making mistakes. But yes, maybe because it's not very common, and at least as far as I know that. And I'm glad you found this idea. So that made total sense to me. You played knight g4, I liked it, and then you played b5. And here, something super weird happened because practically she sacrificed her pieces absolutely for nothing. But I like black's possession. If the bishop goes to a2, it kind of keeps the position close to equal, but black has a couple of interesting options whatsoever, and for white it's very hard to develop because the queen is on d3, it's blocking the bishop from going anywhere. And actually black has a very interesting option. Like at the very least, let's say we play queen to f6. Queen to f6 and to defend the knight on g4. And after the castle, we can go c4 and we're gonna take this pawn. And even though if you check it with the engine, it could tell you the position is equal, I would say black is an advantage. Black has an upper hand. Black has a lot of space and this is really great, honestly. And I don't know, maybe white was surprised with the opening. Oh, sorry. That was a misclick. Let's see what I missed here. So either way, white decided that that would be smart to sacrifice the piece right now. As you can see, it wasn't. Because after this, is not happy to trade. They just sacrifice the piece. There is no attack. They have to retreat. Come on. They have to retreat. And black is just up in material in the opening with no attack coming. They just have to be careful about some f5 moves in the future. And practically I like the way black played their game. That was a beautiful way of, you know, just keeping the advantage stable, especially that they're fighting against someone. When you see their title, you think they're a strong chess player. So it's good that he managed to keep his advantage safe. And we got into the position where practically white may have some chances, but not too many. And after the trade, no, hold on. I opened something wrong, hold on. That wasn't trade. As far as I remember, the queens were on the board. There are many moves that we can talk about. Okay, I got confused with all the annotation here. But alright, I think that could be alright. Maybe that's the moment I wanted to. I don't see the time control. This is the only disadvantage to the annotating because I don't see the time control here, how much time you both had. But practically, black had a forced checkmate coming after the bishop takes, king takes, then queen g1, and as you can see, king f3 leads to checkmate. So after bishop g3, they have to escape like king g2. And I think we're pretty safe just going queen e1 and then, you know, coming over there. Instead, black played, as you could see, pawn to e2. And this is what I just wanted to mention, especially when you have your king exposed, you want to be very confident there is no counter attack, especially when you are up in material, because counter-attacking you, attacking your king is practically the only option your opponent has. So after e2, white had a beautiful way to bounce back and in fact to win the game. Rook f7, check. And after the king goes to g5, this is why we check with the rook, so that we can keep the queen joining from another. So pawn takes, and after the rook takes, queen to g3, check. And there is nothing black could do. They could do this to block, but I mean, we have check. And if we go to a5, rook h7 will be checkmate. So if after queen e3, f4 happens, I think you can see at the very least you can join from e7 and you still checkmate the king. And well, the game will be over one way or another. And this is just a very huge downside to leaving your king alone, not seeing your opponent's options. But luckily white didn't see that. And after e2, they just played queen f7. Again, one very quick move queen f7, and now since the rook cannot join from another side like we had over here, black is safe and they're not losing the game anymore, which they could. That was the only moment practically that white had a chance. And I would say please do not overestimate your opponent just because they have a title. And if you have just remove the, maybe play in a, I think it's called a Zen mod, so you just remove the ratings and you don't see who you're playing against. And I think that would give you a better experience because you're not gonna underestimate or overestimate your opponent whatsoever. It's gonna give you a clear experience. Especially remember, if you're winning a game, pay careful attention to your king because this is the only chance your opponent has. And here they had some tactics to outplay you, but overall the game was interesting. Thank you for sending that as well. And we have a couple of interesting games as well that I wanted to talk about, practically two positional moments. And one of them happened from Kara Khan. My subscriber, I believe, was black, and white literally did nothing. Check this out. That's a good question. Since now I'm coaching full time, I don't have time to play soul chess. Rapid. I don't really have that much time to play that online. And on my level, it's hard to play it on a regular basis, to be honest. But I would like to go to some chess classical tournaments soon. And if guys, you can support me here in the chat, I'm planning to make some content. If I go to a real tournament, I'm gonna be recording my games with live streams and analysis, things like that. So stay tuned. Anyway, h3. So white really achieved nothing out of this game, and I like the way played here, the way black played here. Practically queen a4, black is not scared, everything is safe. Knight takes e3, and black is already better. Look at this pawn structure. So after the knight goes to f5, the trade, and I really hope if you're watching this stream, I hope you understand black is way better in this position. Even though the material is actually black is up a pawn, I forgot to mention that. Even though black has just one more pawn, practically they're winning the game already. Yes, I am a title player, I'm a WFM, and my rating is somewhere between 2300s and 2500s online. And okay, what I just wanted to this game is practically black didn't make any mistakes. They played pretty well, pretty solid, everything was defended. Hold on, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. And after e4, white was trying, bishop c5 happened, and I mean white is just losing. And after knight g3, there is not much to talk about. Let's just praise black for keeping it calm head. And let's just say that white opening choice wasn't very aggressive or active. They really didn't do anything whatsoever. They let black have the entire advantage. So if that's how you play, please don't. I think you wanna consider taking on c5 at some moment with white to keep the position spicy because black had no problems in this game whatsoever. And another moment, a more interesting moment that I wanted to discuss was this game. I think this is the last one that we're talking about, guys, so we're gonna finish pretty soon. Thanks for sticking around here. That's great. I'm happy to hear that you like playing against players. This is very important because, I mean, you want to play against someone who's stronger than you to learn from your mistakes and to improve, to maybe copy their style, to understand what's going on. So here, white, if you were white, guys, I have a question for you, by the way. If you were white, what would you do? How would you develop here? This is the last game, so let's make it interactive because I've been talking quite a lot on my own. What do you think about this possession? And what would you do if you were white? Yes, if you send it to this chat to the Discord. So yeah. Okay, that's an interesting choice to be honest, because white played queen g4 here. You see, they played queen g4 like this. And if you make this move, guys, it means you want to take on g7. And if you play queen g4 and they play knight f6 and you're not ready to take on g7, you shouldn't do that, right? Because, I mean, if you play queen g4, you need to see knight f6. You need to see it, especially given that your rating is 1800 points. You can foresee it and you can prevent that from happening. If you're not ready to take on g7, don't play queen g4, find another move. An interesting idea to play here is actually to play pawn to f4 to have all those pawns in the center, and I'm sure JK you're gonna love this given your style. And after queen h4, you're not scared to play g3, and just look at this pawn structure. This is insane. I cannot really use it very much. So if they play like something like e5, they're gonna lose this pawn. As you can see, you attack it more times. If they play something like d5, they gonna block this bishop and they're gonna help you have a very nice pawn mount like this. Okay, the arrow was wrong, but yeah, this is pretty nice given the space that white got. And the best chance for them is to play f5, and here again you're not worried, you can play e5 and they can't use this whatsoever. You're gonna be safe and sound, and this pawn is gonna be weak at any point they try to do that. So a very interesting idea. Yes, so instead, white played queen g4 here. And I don't like that simply because after knight f6, white wasn't ready to take this pawn. So they played queen g3. But that's just a blunder. This pawn is hanging. So black could have taken this pawn now, as far as they can see it. Well, yes, castling would be... Actually, I think castling would be an option in that position. It would be an option. After e5, because if you get into that position, if black cannot attack you, you could castle safely if their position is blocked. So I had a question for you guys about this game. In a couple of moves, both sides developed. I clicked somewhere wrong again. Okay, I can't unclick it. I don't know. So both sides developed like this. What side do you like more, guys? Do you like more white or black? And why? Let me know. You mean bishop a6? Because we have a light square bishop. So, just curious what you think about it. Because practically, let me just tell you that I love this position from black's perspective way more. Yes, black pawns are a bit advanced, but unlike the previous couple of positions that we discussed, white pawn structure is not good either. It's not allowing white to attack. They can push c5 pretty well. They can push a5. They can't open anything on their side, unlike black, because black can, and black can play g5 or even h5, and for them the attack is possible. And I think you say white looks solid because we look at the position from white's perspective, but if we flip the board, you can realize that practically black is way better. White cannot start an attack if black is careful, because in the game white managed to do that, but practically starts the attack here. And I don't know where I clicked and I can't unclick it. Okay, now I can. Perfect. So I hope now what is going on. Okay. Now I hope you see that really black played g5, and I want to say good job, because we are not afraid of, for black, of losing this pawn. And first of all, at the very least, we have this rook to g8 to open the fire to attack the white side. And maybe we also have this 95 beautiful way. And if the queens get traded, we can be happier. Look at those pawns. They're terrible. And the g file is still open. So some tactics are definitely possible. Instead, white played c5 and black took on c5. And now, guys, just so you know, What is a good spot for the black knight? Let's say from f6. What is a good place for the knight to avoid any attacks whatsoever? I'm sure you can find it. By relocating your knight, you will just finish the entire attack that white had. And you're just gonna be quite happy with this game. Just waiting for you because I know you can find it. Awesome. Perfect. d6 square. If black manages to remaneuver the knight to d6, there is nothing. Let's just make a move actually. Queen e3. I forgot what move happened in the game, but let it be queen e3. And after that, knight e8. And let's say, I don't know, any move. Let's say rook b1. And after knight d6, black position is as solid as a rock. And they could even play f5 in the future because this is free now. They could push h5 and there is nothing white can do. So good job finding the d6 square. Unfortunately, black didn't find it in their game, so they couldn't even take this pawn. If I'm not mistaken, they never, okay, they did to take this pawn. And after bishop takes, rook takes, queen g4, I want to praise white for finding this square, because from here, actually, you made it very unpleasant for your opponent to do anything. I remember some moments of the game, and you created some problems. Even though black is completely winning here, they could just take this pawn on d5. They have more pawns, way more pawns. In the future, they could push h5. They could push f5. Nothing is going on here. Instead, you started intimidating them, and your queen on f5 just confused your opponent to the fullest. c4, and now you're kinda safe. After you protected the pawn, everything looks safe. And now black started making mistakes. They couldn't understand what to push, how to open the possession. And you and I both know that h4 would make a lot of sense. h4 would make a lot of sense to open the position with some possibility to kick the annoying queen away by playing queen rook h5 as well. Just so you know, that would be good for black. But instead, they played king b8, which also makes sense. They got rid of the pin. But h4, knight f4, again, queen f5 is annoying. The knight is here, so I want to give white some credit for counter-attacking. Pawn takes, f pawn takes, also interesting, not opening the h file for black pieces. And after the pawn goes to e4, it actually made it easier for white to counterattack. Bishop b2, hello to the knight, because the queen was on f5. And now black played rook to d6, which makes sense, and white played bishop e5. Again, always possible because of this annoying queen on f5. So, white is counter-attacking. I told you already that black had a completely winning position, and now white is actually getting some chances because black is struggling. They couldn't find anything better to do. They should have remaneuvered this bishop, kick the queen away, even at the cost of the rook versus bishop. Even at this cost, this queen was super annoying. We had to get rid of that. Instead, maybe black didn't want to give the rook away that way. Maybe they didn't see bishop c8, but they lost their exchange anyway, and they actually brought the pawn here, which also actually makes a little sense to me because I would rather have my queen here, to be honest. Even though the pawns are double, they're very well supported. But when I have the pawn on d6, b6 becomes weak. And this is what I want to praise white for. They found the pawn to attack, and they managed to counter-attack black. And here, rook to b1. And after rook b8, white found the brilliant idea Rook b5 was also brilliant, and I think in a couple of moves, yes, they play queen c2. The idea is to remaneuver the queen from its annoying spot on f5, which is not annoying anymore, to c3 and to take this pawn on a5. And after knight e4, you actually, I think, white play queen d3. Okay, makes sense. Attacking the pawn on e3, wanting to take it. And after knight g2, white had a very beautiful idea. Instead of playing queen c3 right away like happened in the game because black would defend the pawn, white could have played rook to b6 first. Check. And this way you block this diagonal, so after that you play queen c3 and you take this pawn and you win the game. So this is what happened. Knight f3, king g2, and practically rook b6. But if I'm not mistaken, what happened in this game is white managed to win it, but honestly, the position is a bit tricky to play when you have 50 seconds, and that's what white at the end of the game. Anyway, if I'm not mistaken, hold on, white managed to win it. I don't remember how exactly, but I would just say that this is maybe by time. If am I right? Did white win by time? Yes, they did. But practically, guys, this position, white had 3 seconds and black had 1 second on the clock, and white has a hard time playing because practically this pawn is a pass pawn, this knight is doing nothing, and if black can go knight c2, we're gonna promote this pawn too. So this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually an equal possession because we can't really stop this pawn from promoting. And this is a draw. Either way, long story short, this is possible because practically queen and knight versus 3 pieces like that is a complicated thing to do. And if black is careful, they manage to at least get a draw, or maybe they can get a pass pawn to promote. Like here maybe. Instead of losing the rook, they could have played rook b6 and then push their pawns together. So the position is complicated to play, and if I were you, I would try avoiding getting into an endgame. Even if I'm up in material like this, I would try to not let it happen if I could, because this is why I told you to play rook b6 first and then queen c3 to avoid such complications. Even if you have a winning possession, especially in time trouble, playing queen versus 3 pieces can be very, very tricky to do. But yes, long story short, white didn't play the opening great, but I like how you found some chances to counter attack. Located your queen on f5, then moved your knight to f4, used your bishop, found a weak pawn to attack, doubled your rooks. Either way, the opening wasn't great, but the way you played middle game was very good, given that your position wasn't good in the middle game, but you managed to counterattack your opponent and to scare him off completely. So I can't say anything else but good job, guys. Good job. And yes, imbalanced positions are fun to play because symmetrical positions are kind of equal and they're considered to be drawish, but imbalanced positions, they give both sides chances to make mistakes, and this is great because I mean these positions become very, very fun to play. So I think that was the last game from Discord, and thanks for sticking around, guys. Let me know what you think of this type of analysis. I'm gonna make a time code in the comments for those whose games I analyzed but who couldn't join the stream today. So if you're watching it afterwards, just let me know what you think of that. And thank you to everyone who joined here and who's new. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave your feedback because it's important for me. I want to see what type of content you want to see, what type of content you like, and yeah. I hope to have another stream soon, and I'm gonna be looking forward to reading your comments and your feedback. Thank you. All of your games were fascinating, and I hope you enjoyed the puzzles from the first part of the stream as well.